Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. Guys, in today's video I'm doing a Rainbow Six Siege tier list including Rauora. And guys, in today's tier list it will be a medium in-depth tier list of every single operator. What to expect is I will be adding some clips on how certain operators can be played in certain maps. Now, it's nothing too crazy guys. I'm not going to go into crazy depth into every single operator. However, a few of them I will go into a bit more depth, showing some clips on how they can be played, how strong their guns are. And yeah guys, I hope you guys enjoy this type of content, and guys, do let me know in the comments if you agree with my tier list. And also, one thing I will say, if you want to only hear about Rauora or Rauora, however you pronounce her name, then skip to the end of the video, because the end of the video is where I talk about her. And yeah guys, without further ado, let's get right into the video. Alright guys, it's going to be pretty interesting here, and I think I'm going to start with my S tiers first, in no particular order. And yeah guys, the first S tier that I will be putting is going to be Ace. Ace offers the AK-12, which I think there's a term to describe as the best gun in the game if you were to ratio in the fire rate with the damage. And in my opinion, it is the best gun in the game, or maybe the second best. And yeah, with the AK-12 comes with the P9 pistol, which is a very solid pistol as well. Not only that, but Ace also comes with a Claymore gadget, which can be very useful in attacking rounds to ensure that you don't get flanked or even like run out on. Ace's charges can be used to open two separate walls at once, so it becomes a lot harder to bandit trick for the defenders. And yeah guys, that is why I think Ace is definitely an S tier operator in Rainbow Six Siege. Alright guys, next up in my S tier, we are going to have Dokkaebi. Now guys, if any of you play Rainbow Six Siege, you will know that Dokkaebi right now is the strongest attacker by far. Genuinely, because she has one of the most broken abilities. Like guys, you can literally use her ability and just run into a room, and you will know if anyone is in that room instantly based off the sound. And in Rainbow Six Siege, sound is very important, so that's why Dokkaebi now is extremely strong. Not only that, she has the MK14 EBR, and right now we are in DMR meta, so the DMR is extremely strong. Not to mention, she also has the Boss G, which is genuinely one of the best guns in the game right now. And then on top of that, she has the SMG12, which is also one of the most broken guns in the game right now. Guys, that isn't even all. She has flashbangs. Like, literally, she has the best 3 loadouts that you can have in the game right now. And that is why, in my opinion, she is definitely the best attacker right now. She gets banned a lot in ranked, and I think we all know why. But yeah, guys, Dokkaebi is genuinely the best attacker right now, in my opinion. Alright guys, moving on to my next S tier. And this one might come a bit early for you guys, but in my opinion, Lesion is one of the best defenders right now, and this is why. Guys, Lesion offers one of the strongest guns on defense in my opinion, the T5 submachine gun. It has 28 damage per shot and a fire rate of 900 RPM. The gun is very, very strong. Not only that, he has the super shorty to make rotates and set up sight. So yeah, Lesion is one of the strongest defenders in my opinion right now. Not only that, his goo mines are extremely strong in vast situations. He's very good endgame, and his Lesion mines can be used for intel to slow enemies down. And yeah, I think Lesion genuinely is one of the strongest defenders. Maybe his biggest weakness is that he doesn't have 1.5. Back when defenders had 1.5s, or a lot of them, that's when this gun was even stronger. Like, I remember when I think Oryx had this 1.5. It was extremely strong. But yeah guys, Lesion, definitely one of the best defenders right now. 2 speed, 2 health. And yeah guys. Alright guys, moving on to, I'm going to do another defender right now that I think is in S tier. And we have Warden. Guys, Warden is probably top 3 strongest picks on defense right now. And he's probably most people's first pick, just because his guns are just extremely, it's like way too strong. Like, he has the MPX, which is a very good gun. He has the M59890, which is arguably the best shotgun in the game. And he also has the SMG12, which, as I've already talked about, is one of the strongest guns in the game. Not to mention he has a C4, and his ability is broken. Guys, flashing in this game is very vital, because it's quite hard to dodge a flash in this game, because the rate of the flash is quite low. So even if you're pretty far away from a flash, or if you look away last second, it's still very hard to time it correctly, which is why Warden becomes an extremely strong defender because of his ability. And yeah, like there are many situations where Warden can be extremely strong, and that is why he is in my S tier in Rainbow Six Siege. Alright guys, moving on, and I'm gonna do another defender here just because I think this defender is one of my new favorite defenders in the game. That is gonna be Tuba Rao. Now guys, with the new Operator Rauora coming out, honestly, with her ability to be able to like barricade these doors quickly, I guess is the term I'd use, it makes Tuba Rao even stronger. Guys, Tuba Rao has genuinely one of the best DMRs in the game, if not the best DMR. And because we are in DMR meta, everyone is frying with this gun. The AR-15 5.0, 67 damage per shot, guys. That's literally a 2-shot for most operators, if not all. Yeah, very, very strong gun. He also has a C4, and not to mention his ability, there's Zoto canisters are extremely strong. Can make it very easy to K trick. Not only that, also counters the new attacker Rauora because he can just freeze her door. And yeah guys, Tuba Rao genuinely one of my favorite defenders to play in the game right now. He's very, very strong, and that is why he will be in my S tier in Rainbow Six Siege. Guys, next up, I'm gonna mix it up and do an attacker here. I think Hibana is my next S tier operator. Guys, Hibana is arguably the most versatile hard breacher in Rainbow Six Siege. Maps like Clubhouse, Oregon, especially those two, I'd say, are where she shines. She can get multiple hatches in an instant. She's a very strong attacker with very good guns. The Type 8-9 is genuinely, in my opinion, a pretty underrated gun. I mean, it does do 40 damage, so I can't really say it's underrated. Not only that, she has the Bearing 9, which is one of the best SMGs in the game as well. And then she also has stun grenades, which are obviously proven to be OP in Siege. And yeah, guys, I think she strives on a lot of maps. She's basically a go-to hard breacher for most sites, especially if they're playing bottom floor on like certain sites, like Oregon. And yeah, guys, that's why I think Hibana is definitely an S tier hard breacher. Alright, guys, next up, we have a bit of a controversial pick, in which I think most people wouldn't agree with me when I say this, but I still think Doc is an S tier operator. I've heard some like content creators talk about Doc and how overrated he's become. But the thing is, like, I still think Doc is one of the strongest defenders because at the end of the day, he can get 3 of his like own teammates, including himself, up to full HP. Not to mention he has the MP5 with the ACOG. So yeah, I think Doc is still extremely strong. Yeah, I don't really care what those content creators say. I think he's still S tier, especially in ranked. Maybe not in Pro League, but he's still very strong. Alright guys, next up, it's sad to say, but I still think if we're talking about ranked in general, Ash is still an S tier operator. Now guys, the thing about Ash, and the thing about this game that in my opinion is very lackluster, is the idea that people use these operators just for their guns. I feel like Ash still has a pretty strong ability, I'm not gonna lie. It's not terrible, but the thing is, most people when they pick Ash, they just want to frag out. She has a small hit scan, she has the R4C with the ACOG, which is most people's favorite gun, I'd say. And she also does have claymores, which is, most people usually don't even use it because they're just running in. But yeah, sadly, I think if we're talking about Pro League, I don't think Ash is S tier. But because I'm not involving that, I think in ranked, in general, Ash is an S tier operator. And probably one of the most picked as well. Alright guys, next up, we have Smoke going into S tier. I don't even want to explain why this guy's S tier because literally everyone knows, but I will do so anyway. Guys, Smoke is still and has been one of the best defenders for a while, easily top 5. He has the best shotgun in the game. His smoke canisters can be very, very strong, especially late round, and it can actually be strong early round as well, but I'd say it's more thought out to be an end game ability. Very strong. Also has the SMG 11 that has 32 damage and an insane fire rate. Barbed wire as well, which is pretty strong nowadays considering the damage buff ages ago. And yeah, guys, like, you've probably seen clips where Smoke has stopped plants and slowed down attackers tremendously. It can also cut off angles for defenders, making it easier to defend. And yeah, I think Smoke is one of the best defenders in the game. Guys, we're kind of slowing down on S tiers here. There's only a few more I'd say are probably S tier. And in the current meta right now, we have Vigil. And yeah, I think Vigil would also be S tier for sure. Guys, like Dokkaebi, Vigil is basically Dokkaebi on defense in terms of guns. He has the Boss G and the K1A, which I have been seeing people running it lately again. It was slowed down for a while. However, I still think the Boss G is the better pick of the gun. Not to mention he has the SMG-12 and also impact grenades, which can be used for rotates or anything regarding site setups. And yeah, his ability is still pretty strong. I'd say it's still very strong actually. And yeah, he's just one of the strongest roamers, always has been. And yeah, I think Vigil is definitely one of the best defenders. Guys, next up, we have Jackal, which I will be putting in S tier. A bit controversial because he's always getting banned, but I still think he's one of the best roam clearers in the game. Guys, Jackal is one of the best roam clearers in the game, and still has pretty decent guns, I'd say. Well, the C7E is probably his best gun, or definitely his best gun. And yeah, his ability is where he really thrives, which is why he gets banned a lot. Basically can roam clear basically anyone really, and can be very annoying for defenders to face against because they just feel like they have no breathing room. The thing about Jackal is what most people don't understand is when you get Jackal tracked, you naturally become a lot more nervous and your aim can become a lot more shaky. Not to mention that in higher ranks, if you get Jackal tracked and you're roaming, if the team is playing together, they can easily roam clear you, and it's basically impossible to win a gunfight. It's very, very hard. That's why I think Jackal gets banned a lot, and he's also one of the strongest attackers. Next up in S tier, we have Fenrir. I mean, this guy's getting banned every rank game. I swear, like, rarely do I ever see this guy not get banned, and here's why. The reason Fenrir is in S tier, in my opinion, is genuinely because his abilities are extremely strong. Like, his FNAT dread mines are very, very hard to play against, especially if the attackers aren't running a Twitch or like a Flores or anything. If you don't clear these FNAT dread mines, and you run into one, you feel like you're in a whole new world. Like, genuinely, you can't see or hear anything, and if the defenders swing you, you're just dead. You can't do anything against it. I guess its biggest weakness is that it's shootable. However, if it's placed correctly, it can still be very hard to get an angle on it and shoot it. Not to mention, Fenrir also has the MPX submachine gun, and I mean, we all know what the MPX is, basically Bandit's gun. And he also has the Bailiff, which is very good for making rotates, any sort of vertical play. I guess you could say his secondary gadget lacks a bit in terms of BPs and observation blockers. However, I still do think he's an S tier. Alright guys, next up in S tier, we are going to have Buck. Guys, Buck is one of the best breach and support players I have seen. He has the C8 SFW, which is not one of my favorite guns, but it's definitely up there in terms of... The gun is probably the best in terms of entertainment, in my opinion, and like just having fun with it. But he really thrives when it comes to the skeleton key. And guys, Buck is extremely strong for vertical play, and he also has flashes which can make him an entry as well, which is why I think he strives a lot. And a lot of people play Buck to frag out just because the flash is extremely strong. His pistol isn't anything special. He has the MK1, still pretty decent. And yeah guys, 2 speed, 2 health, extremely strong on vertical play. And I do think Buck is probably one of the last S tier attackers that I will have on this list. Alright guys, last but not least, I think the last attacker I will be putting, well, the last operator I'll be putting in the S tier would probably be Thatcher. And do I really need to even explain why? I mean, I will, but like, let's deep for a second. This guy's been getting banned in ranked for probably, I swear, the last 5 years. I swear this guy gets banned in like almost every ranked game. Nowadays, you might see a different type of ban, but other than Dokkaebi, but Thatcher is still getting banned a lot. So guys, Thatcher does offer the L85A2, and this gun I still do love. I feel like it has gotten a lot worse compared to how it was back in the day, but he also offers the AR-33, which I've been like starting to love on Flores. I think it's a very good gun as well. Honestly, I could somewhat prefer it to the LA. They're both very strong guns, and he also has a shotgun if you really want to be a pussy and use that. He offers claymores. Guys, his ability can literally deactivate any gadget in range, and yeah, it makes it very strong. He gets banned in almost every rank game. So yeah, I mean, I guess we know why he's S tier. He also does have 3 health, which can be very good as well. I don't know what the fuck his headgear is, but yeah. Alright guys, I might have accidentally missed one, and I will say that Mute will be my last S tier defender. I think, if I'm not missing anyone. I'll check back after this, but yeah, Mute will definitely be my last S tier operator, and here's why. Guys, Mute has an extremely strong gadget, especially nowadays when people play Deimos. Mute can be extremely strong as it deactivates the Deimoses, and not to mention, it's still very good for blocking intel. Mute also has the 590 A1 as well, which is, again, I've already said, the best shotgun in the game. And he has the SMG11, which is the SMG11. Now, I'd say Mute's biggest strength is his versatility. He's quite versatile in the way his playstyle can be played. He can definitely be played as a deep anchor, but he can also roam quite well as well. And as I've already said, because he blocks off Deimos, a lot of players can actually creatively use Mute, in the sense that they can roam in a way where they can't be tracked by Deimos or even drones. So yeah, I do think Mute is very strong, and that is why he is probably the last operator in S tier in my opinion. Yeah guys, very, very strong. Alright guys, one thing I will say is that I do think there are operators down here that could be in S tier in very, very specific situational more situations, I guess. But the thing is, in a general aspect in ranked, I don't see players playing these operators as well as I see them playing these operators. So that is why I think I'll start with my A tiers now. And I will start with the A tiers that I think could definitely be in the S tier for sure. And I wouldn't be mad about it. And yeah, starting off in A tier, there is a lot. I think there is going to be a lot of A tiers here. And the first one we have is Brava. Guys, recently Rainbow Six Siege has become an even more ability-based game, introducing new gadgets and kind of showing off how strong abilities truly are in Rainbow Six Siege. And that is why Brava is going to be an extremely important operator to run. I've been seeing her being played a lot more in ranked games. I mean, she does have a very strong gun, the Paratheo 8. She has a super shorty, which most people won't use on attack, kind of pointless. And she also does have a claymore, but her strongest aspect is definitely her Clod drones. Guys, these Clod drones can counter Melusis, Capgans, Lesions. Any defensive gadget that can be very strong on defense can be countered. And I think Brava is an extremely strong operator. I guess her biggest downside to why she isn't S tier, in my opinion, is probably because of the simplicity of in which her drones can be destroyed. I think that, and she only has 2 drones as well. If you destroy them, she's kind of useless. You kind of got to make a different type of play with her. But if you don't, and Brava plays Brava correctly, then it can be played very, very well. And that is why I think Brava is definitely an S tier operator. I meant A tier, not S tier. I'm a bit stupid. Guys, next up in A tier, I'm going to be putting one of my favorite defenders, Castle. Guys, newer players might think very simple of Castle, as you can just destroy his armor panels with like 9 hits. Not only that, you might think like, oh, he's not really much because you can just destroy it with a gadget. Guys, the thing about Castle is he's very good for site setup. Not only that, he can cut off a lot of angles as well, which is extremely important in certain maps. I think maps like Clubhouse, Villa, Oregon, honestly, Coastline, like a lot of maps Castle can be extremely strong in, especially maps like Coastline where people can just sit outside of ruins and just fucking hardscope you with a Cali. Castle can cut off these certain doorways and windows, and he does have the UMP 4.5, which in general isn't that too strong of a gun. However, it does have the ACOG and the 1.5, which is why I think Castle is definitely one of the strongest defenders Even though he's A tier, I could definitely see him being S tier if someone were to place him there. Not to mention he has the super shorty, which even helps more with his sight setup. He can make rotates, head holes, and yeah, I think Castle is one of the strongest defenders in the game. Alright guys, next up, we have another defender that I could definitely see being in S tier, and I think most people would get mad at me for not putting her at S tier, but we have Azami. Now guys, the thing about Azami is, give Azami to a player like Spoit and she's at S tier. But the thing is, in the general ranked context, I think, first of all, not everyone knows her best setups, and she is quite an intel heavy operator. You need to know where to place and how to place her keeper barriers, and kind of what purpose does she even have with her keeper barriers in the first place. Now, I do think that is why I would probably decide to put her A tier instead of S. I do know she's probably one of the more fun operators, and she does have the 917, sorry, the 919, which is basically Capcan's gun. It does not have any 1.5 or even ACOG like how Tachanka has it, but it still is a very, very strong gun. And she also has the deagle, which is fucking just a beauty to play with. And yeah, you guys can also see here that she's basically listed as an anti-entry or support player. And well, I do agree with that, but I also do think she can be played as a different type of roam as well if she's played correctly. And you can also see here that her difficulty is on 3 bars. As I said, not everyone knows how and where to place her keeper barriers. And yeah guys, knowing Siege is a very perspective based game. Placing her keeper barriers and peeking off them in Rainbow Six Siege, you really need to know how to do it. I myself don't know how to do it properly, but if you don't, then it can put you at a big disadvantage. And yeah, like, I do think she's still an A tier, she's still very strong. But yeah guys, that is my thoughts on Azami. Next up in the A tier section, we are going to have Capcan. Guys, I don't know if you've ever seen, but Capcan on certain maps can genuinely be disgusting. Capcan on Border, which is probably Capcan's strongest map, genuinely should be run every round on defense in my opinion. There's so many doorways, very hard to see in certain sites and certain doorways, and not to mention that it can be very good late round. A lot of people also have this misconception where Capcan's abilities, they're just so easily visible and can be shot. But guys, you gotta understand, Rainbow is not that type of game. It's a very fast-paced game, and anything can happen in any moment. So sometimes you just don't expect it, or you're too focused on another aspect of the game. And that is why I still think a lot of people, especially in lower ranks, can be hit by a lot of Capcan traps, which is why I think is definitely A tier. It also has the same gun that Azami has, which is still a very, very strong gun. He used to have C4s and be even stronger, but they removed that, obviously, I think like a few months ago. And yeah guys, Capcan, definitely an A tier operator. Guys, next up in A tier, I'm gonna do these two together because they have a lot of similar aspects in my opinion. It's going to be Monty and Blitz, both in A tier. Guys, starting off with Monty, he obviously is a lot stronger than he was back in the day. He is still quite hard to play. He's a very deep support, and needs to, like, the person playing Monty definitely needs to know when to be aggressive and when to be passive with Monty, which in my opinion is his biggest aspect. Not to mention, he only has pistols, and he does have the heartbeat charge, which can be very good for getting hatches or playing vertical. But the only reason I think he's still A tier is because of his more bump ability. If you get bumped with Monty and you're one-on-one, you're basically dead. There's literally nothing you can do, unless the guy just whiffs all his shots. But yeah, kind of in similar aspect with Blitz. I'd honestly say Blitz is a tiny bit stronger than Monty, just because of the flashing aspect. If you get flashed and you're one-on-one with Blitz, you're literally dead. Nothing you can do. His Blitz is very strong for map control. That's one thing I will say. He can take stuff very quickly, can put on a pressure as well. And yeah, his blind is also obviously very strong. And yeah, I think both of them are pretty strong A tier characters. Next up in my A tier, I will be putting Nomad in my A tier. Now guys, a lot of people might say that Nomad belongs in S tier, but again, I think Nomad's practicality lacks that tiny bit just to be that S tier. The thing about Nomad is her air jabs are extremely strong, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're gonna just be able to kill the enemy. Air jabs can be specifically strong in end games or late games when the bomb is down and you're all outside of objective as an attacker. But I'd say like Nomad's biggest issue is, other than that, she's kind of useless. She doesn't have too much versatility. I'm not saying she's weak, she's still an A tier operator, but that is why I wouldn't put her S tier. Now again, give it to someone like Shaiko, she's an S tier, but not everyone's fucking Shaiko, you know? Some people are just like, just fucking terrible. Now she also does have flashes though, which I feel like with Nomad run really well. I really like the flashes with Nomad. I don't know why, it just feels like you can swing off her way easier. And I personally love her ARX. I think it's very fun to play. And yeah, guys, as you can also see here, she is also labeled as a 3 difficulty, which might make you think, oh, how can she be so hard? All she does is shoot air jabs. But the thing is, she does have a way that she needs to be played, especially with her team. So yeah, a solo Nomad player will probably be pretty useless most of the time. And yeah, guys, she is very strong. Alright guys, next up, and this might be a little confusing for newer players, but in my opinion, Striker is an A tier operator. In Pro League, some would say, oh, not some would say, everyone would say he's S tier in Pro League. However, this isn't Pro League, this is ranked, so I still think he is A tier. Now, some might say, what the hell? How is this guy still A tier? This guy's trash, no one should ever play him. Guys, you're forgetting something. He has flashes, grenades, the M4, and the 5.7, which is still a pretty good pistol. Guys, he has like very good utility. Flashes in this game, again, I've already mentioned, they're very strong. And Striker, you don't need to know how to play this game. You just aim and shoot. He doesn't have a special ability, but his utility makes him a very good support. And I do think he's still an A tier operator. I genuinely do. Next up in A tier, we have Flores. And guys, you've probably seen me play him a lot, and here's why. Flores, guys, is a 2-speed, 2 health, and has a very strong ability in my opinion, which I will explain shortly. But starting up, he has the AR-33, which I personally love this gun. I think it's very fun to play. He does also have the DMR. However, I personally don't like to run this. Honestly, it's still very good. It does 61 damage, but I personally like the AR-33. He also does have claymores, which again can be very good. Not only that, he also has flashes. Now, I tend to run claymores on Flores because I don't really see myself playing entry or any like pushing or aggressive playstyle with Flores. However, I think flashes could definitely still be very good with him. Now guys, Flores' abilities and his RCE Ratero charge is extremely strong against a lot of defenders, especially defenders and site setups which play deployable shields, Melusis, bandits, any sort of ability really, Azamis especially. Guys, a map that he's in my opinion very strong in is probably Clubhouse and Canal. Canal gets played a lot of Azami holding Skybridge, and I think operators like Flores are just extremely strong to destroy all these keeper barriers. Also in maps like Oregon, where they're holding top floor with Azami, again, Flores can be extremely strong. So yeah, I think Flores is definitely an A tier operator at its best. He's still extremely strong, and yeah, I love Flores. Next up in my A tier, guys, we are going to have Grim. Now guys, Grim is a 3-speed operator, which again makes it very good for him to play. He feels pretty fast to play as well. He's extremely strong in the front lines, and he can take a lot of space. And honestly, his ability is genuinely OP in my opinion. It can move around defenders very well, and if you play with a team, you can definitely get picks off that. Because again, guys, ghost pressure. Well, it's not quite ghost pressure, but it's the same concept in where defenders will feel the pressure if they're getting grimmed out and if they're running across doorways, etc. Now his gun is the FF52 Commando, which is obviously IQ's gun, and still a very solid gun in my opinion. Guys, give Grim to a Pro League player and he's a S tier, but in my opinion in ranked, he's still an A tier. A lot of people still need to figure out lineups and kind of where to Grim off as well. Still extremely strong operator, don't get me wrong. But yeah, he also offers an EMP, hard breach, and claymore, which is very strong. You can obviously get bandits or Cades off the wall with this EMP. And yeah, guys, I think Grim is an extremely strong attacker. Alright guys, next up in A tier, we have Goyo. Now guys, I know I said I won't be relating Pro League as much to this tier list, but guys, how can I genuinely not do that when Pro League Goyo is genuinely OP? Guys, have you guys seen this guy being played on bank? Guys, I'm gonna show a clip right now, yeah? Alright guys, I couldn't really find a Pro League clip because I didn't really want to copy a clip. But basically what I was trying to say, guys, is what most Pro League players do, and well, in the higher ranks, is normally attackers will shoot 2 Hibana pellets right here just to get a little walk in, so they can plant right in this corner right here, so that the defenders won't be able to have an angle on them from the rotate. However, this is where Goyo comes into play, because a lot of Pro League players stack up multiple Goyos just to slow down the plant. So usually what will happen is the Hibana will do what she does, walk in, and as soon as the defenders shoot the fire, she'll have to walk back out, denying like 25 seconds per canister. And yeah guys, Goyo on bank and some other maps too is just extremely strong, especially bottom floor bank. So yeah guys, that's basically what I was trying to say. So yeah guys, literally they put like fucking 5 Goyos on one door just because the plan on that door is so default and it makes Goyo so strong in certain situations. Not to mention his 2 speed, 2 health, and he also has the Vector 4-5 with Acre. Can I just say, if you guys master this gun, it's genuinely one of the best guns in the game if you can master it. The only problem with me is, as you can see here, the recoil pattern is quite high, and on PC, like, it's a lot harder than console. I remember playing him on console and he was so easy to play, but on PC he's a lot harder to aim with. Genuinely, Goyo, if mastered, is definitely an S tier, but in ranked, based off what I've seen, he's probably an A tier. Still very strong. His Goyo canisters are extremely strong late round. Can, well, I guess be used as a trapper or anti-entry. Usually more anti-entry towards the late round. It also pushes time off the attackers, which can be very vital for pressure. And yeah guys, Goyo, definitely an A tier operator. Next up guys, we have Deimos. Now Deimos, in my opinion, is again very, very strong attacker. I think his verticality play can be extremely strong. My biggest weakness with Deimos is a lot of players tend to lack the ability to understand that there's 5 enemy team. There's 5 players on an enemy team. I myself do this when I track someone and I ping them and I see them running around or they're somewhat close to me. I tend to just hop in and run and like full sprint at them. The problem with that is a lot of people can get picked off by another enemy player because they're just not expecting there to be 2 people on the roam. Now, in saying that, he still is extremely strong. His pistol does 78 damage, which is just crazy. Very good roam clear. Can be played against Cavs. Not quite Vigils, but can still be very, very strong. And yeah, does also have frag grenades. Now, I don't know which is more preferred. I personally like running the AK more than the shotgun. However, I think both are very solid, obviously. Now, the problem with Deimos is, as practical as he is, his difficulty is extremely high. Now, they actually give him a difficulty of 2 out of 3 bars. I personally think he's probably a 3. I mean, you might just think, oh, you track them and then you swing them. But if you play anyone that knows how to play against a Deimos, they will counter it. And they will play a certain way to make it harder for a Deimos to track them and play against them. But yeah, I mean, he's still an A tier in my opinion. Guys, in Pro League, this guy's obviously S tier. But in ranked, I don't see him being played too well most of the time. Next up, guys, I do think there are only a few A tier operators left from this list. However, I do think Thermite is probably just scraping A tier. I know you guys might be thinking, how could Thermite be scraping A tier? Thermite is like one of the best hard breaches, right? Yes, guys, I do think Thermite is a very strong hard breach. But my only issue with him is he lacks a lot of versatility. However, he still is extremely strong in new context based off the fact that, as you guys have seen, I'm sure you've seen the new Rauora update. And now Thermite can also get hatches by exothermic charging Rauoras. It's pretty interesting, but I'll show a clip right here. Yeah, basically Royal Penguin and Fair have both showed this in their own videos. You guys can watch their videos if you want. And yeah, the thing about Thermite, his guns are pretty decent. Nothing special though. The 5.56, in my opinion, just feels a bit off. I don't know why. I mean, I personally don't really like Thermite's gun. It's still a very solid gun. It's definitely not bad by any means. He also does have flashes, which I don't know why I don't have equipped. But yeah, his flashes are extremely strong. I mean, nothing really more to know about Thermite other than you place the breaching charge, you blow it up, and you play a support role. You have to do your job as Thermite, otherwise you're kind of picking him for just no reason. But yeah, I do think he is probably higher end B tier or an extremely low A tier. Probably extremely low A tier because he still is very, very strong. Guys, next up in A tier, we're gonna have Valkyrie. Alright guys, Valkyrie is a 2 speed, 2 health, an intel operator, and she does have the MPX with a C4, which makes her extremely strong, especially knowing if you know how her gadget works. She has black eyes, which basically are 3 small cameras. Guys, if you play this very well, you can get a lot of C4 kills with Valkyrie. You can play the vertical, you can play intel. Now, the only time Valkyrie lacks is when you have very, very shit teammates and they don't understand the concept of yellow pinging. If a correct Valkyrie player places her cameras in very strong positions, like these ones, and her teammates aren't disabled, then I think Valkyrie is definitely by far an A tier operator. However, I do think she is an S tier because of the fact that a lot of people just tend to not understand when to red ping or yellow ping. And guys, I'll say this right now and I'll explain it. The best times to red ping is in endgame situations where the pressure is extremely high. So let's say, for example, it's a 4-4 overtime and it's a 1v1. Guys, the amount of times I've heard people say don't red ping in these situations, and it's extremely stupid because if it's a 1v1 and it's 4-4, the attacker or defender, whoever's getting pinged, isn't going to be worrying about, oh, where's the camera, I need to shoot it. They're going to be worrying about the guy they're facing. It's a pressure moment. Like, that's just naturally how it works. Maybe a top player might know where the cam is and shoot it instantly, but even in general aspects, I do think Valkyrie her cameras need to be understood and they need to have very good placements. I mean, I'm not saying she's a bad operator or anything. She's amazing, but you really need to be stacking and playing well with your team to like use this intel to actually like get picks and win the round. Alright guys, next up in A tier, we are gonna have Bandit. Actually, I've decided to put Bandit and Cade in the same tier just because I do think both have obviously similar concepts. Not to mention, both can be played in very similar ways against, well, with a Tuberao in their team. So if you team up with a Tube and you have a Cade and Bandit, it can be extremely strong. I personally prefer Bandit just because I like the MPX more. But in terms of an ability, I do think Cade is stronger, and here's why. Cade within certain maps can be extremely strong, such as Clubhouse, because you can place his Cades in a way which cannot be destroyed with a Kali or a Thatcher. And this is why I do think Cade is a bit stronger than Bandit. The thing about Bandit is you're always going to know where the bandits are because they can only be placed in one area. However, with Cade, he's a lot more versatile in the sense that he can place his Cades in hidden areas or areas that cannot be destroyed from when an attacker is outside of the map. So yeah guys, I do think Cade is a tiny bit stronger in terms of ability. Now in terms of guns, I do think the MPX is definitely better than the AUG. I don't know if it's better than the TCS. I personally do think this gun is extremely strong. I still do love the MP7, I'm not gonna lie, but yeah, I'm not too sure. You guys can decide on that. Cade also does have a C4, so does Bandit. So yeah guys, I think both of them could definitely be placed in A tier. Guys, next up in A tier, we are going to have Ying. Guys, Ying is an extremely strong attacker for map control. She is 2 speed, 2 health, and she does have the T95 LSW, which I think is a pretty strong gun, I'm not going to lie. It has an extremely high amount of ammo and has pretty low complexity and is pretty easy to control as well. Now, Ying's Candelas in R6 are actually so strong. Like, I don't know why, I feel like half the time I'm not even looking at the Candela and I'm still getting full blind. And if you play against a team, if you play with a team, she can cause an extreme amount of pressure for the enemies. And yeah, I do think she is an A tier operator and she is very easy to play and very strong. Next up guys, we have Melusi. Now guys, Melusi does have the MP5 with the holo, and she does have a shotgun as well, which is very good for sites setups. She also has the impacts for site setups, Now she has 4 Banshee Sonic devices or defenses, and guys, it is extremely strong. Now some people might say, oh, but you can shoot it. But guys, you gotta understand, Melusi is also an intel operator. As much as she can create pressure in the end game, she's also an intel operator, and at the higher levels, her Banshees can be extremely strong for stopping like an insanely quick push or any type of aggressive play. And yeah, she can be played in a pretty creative way. I don't know if you guys have seen the Melusi C4 setup. Probably doesn't work as well nowadays, but there was a time when it was very strong. And yeah, I do think with her 4 Banshees, full health, she is an A tier operator by far. Guys, next up in my A tier is one that some people might not expect, but I do think Aruni is actually A tier, and here's why. Guys, the thing about Aruni is that because we're in DMR meta, her MK14 mixed with her, I guess, pretty decent ability makes her still a very strong defender. There was a period of time I do think I genuinely put Aruni like B or C tier, but the thing is, because we're in DMR meta and the DMRs are just extremely strong, her gun definitely puts her up. Not to mention her gadgets are still pretty strong. They can be used to, they do make the attackers use abilities such as, or gadgets such as flashes and drones. So it can be very good to cut abilities from the attackers. Not to mention it can be also used for intel. I guess her biggest downside is that abilities do take quite a while to recharge. And not to mention, if a defender is swinging off an Aruni gate, the Aruni gates will shut off, indicating to the attackers that the defenders are there, which can be quite an L on certain maps, especially maps like Border, which is very run out heavy. And yeah, I do think Aruni is still an A tier, probably on the lower end, but she is still very, very strong. Alright guys, next up in A tier, we have Ram. Now guys, Ram is a 1-speed, which in my opinion, if she was like 2 or 3, she'd probably be S tier in my opinion, but she does feel quite slow to play. Now she does have full health, which is very, very good. Not to mention she does have the R4C with the ACOG, and she has flashes, which makes her extremely strong. Now Ram's strongest aspect, in my opinion, is definitely her boogie auto breaches. Guys, her Rams are extremely strong, especially on maps like Chalet or even Oregon, and probably maps like Border as well, possibly. She can be extremely strong. Now, a lot of people might think she only has verticality play, but the thing is, the strongest thing about Ram is the noise cancelling ability. Guys, when she's using her ability, you cannot hear anything. And mix that in with a Dokkaebi or something, and yeah, Ram can be very strong. Basically noise cancels for like most of the defenders. However, that can be used as a negative for Ram, because when she's using her Ram ability, I've done this before, you can run up on, the defenders can run up on attackers a lot easier, because the attackers also can't hear as much. So it can be used against her. However, I still think overall, with her verticality play, noise cancelling, and the R4C, she's definitely an A tier operator. Now guys, I think there will only be a few more A tier operators that I will select. Maybe even just 2, if I'm not mistaken. One of them being Maverick. Now guys, again, as I've already mentioned 10 times, we are in a DMR meta, which is why the AI-15, one of my favorite guns in the game, genuinely, if not my favorite gun, is so strong, which is why I think it puts Maverick A tier. Honestly, other than that, I genuinely might put him B tier, because of the fact that I do think there are so many ways to get a wall or a hatch, and I do think Maverick is one of the more vulnerable ways to open these more walls or like floors or whatever. So, but the thing is, just because it makes him extremely vulnerable does not mean it's bad necessarily, and you will be seeing him played a lot in ranked games, probably more because of his guns and also because he has flash grenades. And yeah, Maverick is a breach, still extremely strong. Guys, I think the last operator I will be putting in A tier will be Twitch. Now guys, as most of you will know, the F2 used to be one of the best guns in the game. However, after the nerf, the recoil pattern went straight to the fucking moon, and basically no one plays this gun. Everyone plays the 417, and because we are in DMR meta, the 417 is extremely strong. So yeah, probably guns wise for the 417 is a lot more of the preference right now. And she does have claymores. Now her shotguns are extremely strong, especially against Fenrir's, Legions, Capgans, And considering these are all very strong defenders and she does counter them, which is probably the reason I'd put her in A tier. She is 2 speed, 2 health. I do think she's not as good as she used to be, obviously, but she is still a very strong attacker and probably the last A tier operator in the game. Alright guys, starting off with the B tiers. Now, I'm not gonna lie, could be quite a lot of B tier operators here, but I'm gonna start mine off with the first one, which is Sledge. Now guys, this might be extremely controversial. Some of you might be like, what the hell, didn't this guy just get buffed? I swear Sledge is very strong. Now Sledge is still strong, which is why he's B tier. However guys, there are way better picks other than Sledge, such as Buck or Ram. These two operators just shit on Sledge in my opinion. The thing is, in terms of guns, they shit on Sledge. Ram has the R4C and Buck has the C8. Sledge's guns aren't bad by any means. However, with the nade nerf, sorry, like a couple months ago, Sledge became a lot weaker. Not to mention that he's a lot easier to C4 than someone like Buck is, because his Sledge's radius is a lot smaller with his sledgehammer. I'm not saying he's a bad attacker, guys, but I do think there are stronger options such as Ram and Buck. So yeah, guys, Sledge is purely B tier just because I do think there are better. The thing about Sledge is, if you're talking about a verticality play, then he kind of just gets shit on. In general, he's still a good entry, in my opinion. He can still be used for vertical, of course, but I don't know. I just feel like, based off preference, I would definitely much rather play Buck or Ram than Sledge. Guys, next up in B tier, and some of this might come as a shock to you guys, but I'm going to put Blackbeard in B tier. Now, a lot of you might say, how is he so low? He should be much higher. But the thing about Blackbeard is he definitely shouldn't be much higher. Now, I do understand he has 3 health, but the thing is his guns are his weakest points. Like, his MK17, in my opinion, is just not a good gun at all. Very slow fire rate, feels very sluggish. His DMR is good. However, you guys gotta understand the concept of enemy versus enemy. The defender has only one place to aim, and that's the head. And if he hits one shot, Blackbeard's dead automatically. Not to mention that Blackbeard can be shot in his feet as well, where I got absolutely spat on. I just got shot in the feet. And yeah, that's why I do think, as meta as most people would think he is, I do think unless you're like a pro player with a pro team, he's not going to be very good in ranked, and you're probably just going to get picked off and do absolutely nothing for your team. I'm not saying he's bad, I'm just saying that's why I don't think he's A or S tier. He's a lot more B tier, still decent, just not the best. Next up in B tier, we have Mirror. Now guys, Mirror used to be the shit. I swear I remember the days when she used to be OP, can't be punched, can't just fucking get destroyed, get blown up. But now, I could genuinely see Mirror in most maps being a C tier operator. However, on certain maps like Villa or even Border, she can be very strong. And she can also have certain aspects to her which can be played quite differently. Like in this map right here in Border, top floor. As you guys can see, this angle here with this mirror creates a one-way, and the defenders gain a massive advantage so that attackers can't take this bridge over here. And yeah, I do think Mirror can still be played very well. She does have 3 health, and she does have the Vector 4-5. However, she does not have ACOG with it like Goyo. Does have the C4, which is extremely strong, and she has a shotgun to make rotates. And yeah, I do think Mirror is a pretty BT operator. She can also be strong on maps like Bank. However, I still think just for the fact that her mirror can be destroyed so easily, she drops down quite a lot. Next up in BT, we have Iana. I'm actually going to do Iana and Zero at the same time here, just because of, well, you guys will see. Some of you might be thinking, why did I rate these two together, Iana and Zero? Well, after Zero's recent buff of him having a lot more cameras, I mean, he has like, what, 6 Argus launchers. He basically has very similar concept to Iana in the sense that Iana has basically an unlimited amount of info. You just gotta wait it out. Which is why I do think Zero is a bit stronger than Iana, because Zero can have all 6 placed at once. Not to mention that Zero can actually destroy bandit charges and other gadgets as well, which is why I do think Zero is the better pick than Iana. However, the bad thing about Zero is his practicality. I mean, if you guys have seen pros play Zero, then they make him look amazing because they have like insane setups and such. But in general, in ranked, what I see most players do is they just shoot a Zero, breach the wall, and then the defenders just hear it and shoot it. Like, Zeros are very easy to hear, they're quite loud, and can just be shot instantly, and you basically have nothing to do. I'm not saying he's bad, guys, by any means. He's still very strong. I think most people would put him A tier, actually, but I do think he is a B tier operator. Yeah, I mean, he does have 3 speed, which is extremely strong, but I just think in terms of practicality, he's probably a B tier at best. Now, Iana, on the other hand, in my opinion, does have the better guns. She does have the G36C, and she also has the ARX. Both guns, I mean, you guys will know, they're both very, very strong. She does have the Gun 6 as well, which can be very good against like Melusis or anything stopping her from playing entry. And she also does have the EMPs, which also can be very good for support. As you guys can see, she is a frontline or intel operator. I do think Iana is still very strong as a B tier. Now, guys, I know you might be thinking, how have I left Wamai and Jaeger out of the top 2 tiers? But in my opinion, I think both of these operators are B tier, and here's why. Guys, I know we all missed the days where Jaeger was classified as an S tier or A tier, but the thing about Jaeger is genuinely he just lacks so much versatility. Not to mention that his ability in general can be cleared out so easily. Like, one ADS only stops one grenade, so you can just throw like one flash, and if there's only one ADS, you can just throw another one, and the second one will go off as a flash. So, I mean, I don't think he's bad at all. He still beats it. However, compared to how he was back in the day with his ACOG, I think he's a lot weaker now. And honestly, there's just too much going on for an ADS to stop all of it. I mean, that's just my personal preference. Now with Wamai, I think his biggest lacking aspects are his guns. Like the AUG and the MP5K, really, they're not bad guns, but they're not good by any means, in my opinion. And yeah, not to mention his ability, I find it quite pointless most of the time, especially against like a Ying. Like the Ying still goes off, so you need to place your Wamais like in a very good way. Otherwise, it's kind of just like pointless anyway. It can still be good in certain situations against like frag grenades, I'd say, so you don't get cleared out of a position. However, honestly, I think Wamai and Jaeger they both lack the same fundamental, with really like lacking versatility in my opinion, and guns. I mean, Jaeger's gun is strong, but these two guns I'm not a fan of at all. Alright guys, next up in BT we have Kali. Now guys, the thing about Kali is she's probably one of the only operators in the game I think are either S tier or B tier. There's no in between. The reason being is Kali can be extremely good for bandit tricking or even just getting bandits or cades off walls. Her gun is very, very good. Both her guns actually. The only problem with Kali is if you're in a certain position in which you miss a shot and the other opponent can see you, you're dead instantly. That's the thing with Kali, is you cannot miss your first shot in certain positions, which is why I'd say positioning is her most important aspect, and a lot more slow positions can favor her, a lot longer angles. However, if you're in a clutch situation where you need to push the objective or anything like that, she becomes a lot harder to play. I still do think she's B tier, and I do think she's quite underrated. And yeah, if she had better guns, again, give this to a FaZe clan member and she's S tier. But you need to be hitting your shots, and if you're not, then she's basically pointless. So don't play Kali if you can't hit your shots. Alright guys, next up in BT we have Tachanka. Now guys, literally 2 weeks ago, if you ask me, I literally put Tachanka in D tier. But the thing is, I didn't know that his fucking 919 had an ACOG. Like, I don't know why this gun's actually fun to play. His biggest weakness is probably his massive fat ass hit scan, and he can be shot really easily. But in terms of guns, I actually love his guns. He has the Bearing 9 and the 919 with ACOG, which is extremely strong. His deployable shield is also very good to cut off certain angles or give you a pixel peek. And he does have full health as well. And I don't know if you guys have seen, but his ability can actually be played very well, especially on certain maps like Bank, Coastline, and maybe even Oregon as well. Probably them 3 maps. Cafe as well, if you know how to play him well on that map. So yeah, I do think Tachanka is a B tier operator, and he's honestly pretty solid. Guys, next up in B tier, we have Echo. Now guys, Echo is very strong as well, which is why I'd place him in the B tier. He does have a lot of health, and he is an intel operator. However, he can also be extremely strong late game. I'm sure you guys already know that. He does have good guns with the MP5 SD and the Bearing 9. And honestly, his Yokais can be very strong. However, I think their biggest weakness is probably the fact that they're extremely visible. Back in the day, they used to be invisible, but now they're fucking visible. And if you shoot them, like, there's nothing else to Echo. Like, he's nothing. He's just got no versatility. However, he can win rounds just by merely hiding and stopping plants. It is quite unlikely though, because nowadays they can just get off the plant, shoot it, and then start planting again. So you really need to know the best positionings for Echo. And yeah, I do think he lacks a lot, and he'll probably be in the lower tier of B in my opinion. And yeah, still overall a decent operator. Next up guys, in B tier we have IQ. Now guys, a lot of you might be fucking screaming at me right now, saying why the hell is she in B tier? She's so good, like she should be A or S. And I wouldn't even be mad at you for saying that. The thing about IQ is she does have 3 speed, which is very good. She is an intel or support operator, and she does have good guns as well. So you might be thinking, how is she B tier? She has good everything. My biggest issue with her is definitely her practicality. Guys, in rounds, you might be thinking, oh, just bring in IQ, they have a Valkyrie. Just shoot the Valcams. Thing is, guys, you can't just run into the fucking map just with your pistol out trying to find Valcams. There will be roamers, there will be people looking for you. So in terms of her practicality, she is quite off in my opinion. However, in saying that, she is still definitely on the higher end of B tier, if not even very low A tier in my opinion. I just think like her gadget in ranks that I've seen get used as well. I'm not saying she's bad guys, she's still very fucking strong. Her ability is good as well. However, I just think unless you're playing with a team member or a fucking 5-stack, she's basically useless. Alright guys, last but not least, in my B tier, I'd probably put Thunderbird. Alright guys, a lot of you might be thinking, what the hell, how is Thunderbird like still B tier? No one plays her. Guys, the thing is, I don't understand why no one plays her. Because the thing is, her gun is still pretty decent. It does 42 damage, 700 rounds per minute. And she also has the Bearing 9. Now, I do understand that her Kona stations did get nerfed quite a lot. And she only does, I think, 25 healing per Kona station. She has a very good ability in my opinion. I don't understand how people think it's bad. By any means, it's not bad. It just gets outweighed by operators like Doc. And I still think she's probably on the lower end of B2, but the thing about her is she lacks no difficulty. Well, it doesn't lack it, but she basically optimizes the fact that she takes no difficulty to use. You just place her Kona stations in positions you want, and that's it. That's all they do. And it's very simple to use, can be very helpful to your teammates. So yeah, I think she's a pretty solid B tier operator. Actually guys, I'm going to switch it up. This is going to be my true last B tier operator. I don't think anyone else would be B tier. That is going to be Glaz. Now, a lot of you again might be thinking, why is Glaz so fucking high? How is he above Osar or these other operators? Guys, when I say Glaz is actually insane, in certain situations, he actually is insane. He's a 3 speed, not to mention his OTS is genuinely an amazing gun. I don't understand how people don't like it. And he has the Bearing 9 with claymores, grenades, and smokes. Now, I'm sure you guys know what Glaz's ability is. He can basically see through smokes and has a thermal through smokes. And the thing that makes Glaz so good in my opinion is his map control on certain maps like Coastline and or even Border. He can be very good for cutting angles for defenders, and yeah guys, extremely strong support in my opinion. Even though he's BT, you might be thinking, oh, why didn't you put him A tier? The only reason I won't put him A tier is because in clutch situations or in situations where the gunfight is a lot more close range, he can struggle a bit. You need to be pretty strong with the Bearing 9 to be able to win those gunfights. But yeah, I do think Glaz is a solid B tier operator. Alright guys, starting with my C tiers. Now, I'm not gonna lie, any operator in this selection here, in my opinion, is probably a bit weaker. However, looking at it now, there is one that kind of stands out in my opinion, which I could still see it being in B tier, but I'm gonna put Scopus in C tier. Now I'm not gonna lie, guys, I might actually move Scopus up. My bad. Yeah, I knew I said I was gonna fucking, that was gonna be my last B tier, the last one, but I am gonna put Scopus in B tier actually. I just rethought it and realized her gun is genuinely so strong. 36 damage, and it has an insane fire rate. Not to mention that literally the gun has no recoil, so it's just a master sprayer. It's very, very strong. And Scopus does also have impact grenades, and her ability is quite strong. The only issue with it is you need to know how to play it properly. A lot of people think you just place one of her Scopuses in a flank position, and then when they're flanking, you hop on it. The problem with that, most attackers will drone out a Scopus, and if not, just put a claymore in front of her fucking cameras, or literally just hear. It's quite loud, the gadget, so when you do transfer to your other observation tool, you can literally be heard and just pre-fired. So you do need to know how to play her. In my opinion, the best way to play her is to get a pick and then go back. Well, if you take damage, go back to your other robot so you get full HP, and therefore you made it a 5v4 and you have full HP again. And yeah, I do think she's very good for intel as well. And overall, I think she is a B tier operator. Alright guys, now officially starting with my C tiers. And I think my first C tier is going to be Amaru. Guys, my biggest issue with Amaru is that, yes, you might run in there and get a 5k, but the problem is, a lot of the ranks I've seen, and lower ranks especially, not necessarily that Amaru is the issue, it's the fact that the team does not know how to play with an Amaru. See, I've seen a lot of situations where the Amaru goes in, gets 2 kills and then dies, making it a 4v3, and then what her team does is stall. They do absolutely nothing. They don't take map control of Amaru. The way I play with an Amaru, if one of my teammates play Amaru and they're hard rushing, I tend to just hard rush as well, because the biggest advantage I'm going to get from an Amaru pushing is to push with her and to play with her as well, get picks and take map control, which is one of her strengths. And she is 2 speed, 2 health. She does have a very good gun, G8, but guys, again, her biggest issue is most of the time she doesn't even get kills. She just goes in, the enemy's hero, and then she dies instantly, and that literally makes it a 4v5, giving your team at a disadvantage instantly. I'm not saying she can't pop off with her, however, I do think she is a C tier. Her ability is extremely loud, so unless you're playing with a 5-stack, she's basically useless in my opinion. Next up, guys, we have Mozzie. Guys, Mozzie's biggest weakness by far is his pest launcher in my opinion. Having 3 pest launchers as a whole ability is a bit weak in my opinion. The attackers have 10 drones all up and you can only get 3. Not to mention that most of the time, your teammates just destroy the fucking drones anyway. And most Mozzie mains don't even place their drones properly. It can be still decent if you place your drones properly. However, overall, I think he lacks. Not to mention his guns are quite lacking as well. The Commando 9 is not bad, but compared to a lot more defenders, one of the more lower rated guns in my opinion. The Peter Neroni, honestly, I do not like it. Unless you're Shaiko and you have insane aim, the gun has like no bullets, and yeah, I don't think it's very strong at all. He does have the C4, which is quite good, but mixed in with his ability, I do think Mozzie is definitely a C tier operator. Next up, guys, in C tier we have Fuse. Now guys, the thing about Fuse is a lot of people or lower ranks do believe that when you fuse, you should just be getting kills. That's absolutely not what he's meant to be played for. Obviously, you can get kills from it. No one's saying you can't. But his main objective is anti-gadget or to move around defenders so that the attackers can be in positions to get those picks. They can get those kills when they're running away from the fuses. Thing is though, Fuse is very loud and can tend to be just cleared instantly. Unless you're playing with a team and you're playing off vertical, he's still quite weak in my opinion, and he does tend to get flanked a lot. I tend to flank a lot of fuses and just kill him while he's fusing. So yeah, I do think Fuse is definitely a C tier. Now, if you were to picture a perfect situation for Fuse, then I'm sure he's a lot more decent, but overall I do think he's a C tier operator. Guys, next up in CT we have Rook. Guys, Rook is probably the most simple cut defender in the game. There's nothing really to him other than placing your Rook armor down, giving your team extra, well, each of your teammates extra 25 HP except Scopus. Now, Rook is a 3 health, 1 speed, and honestly, I don't see a possible way you could go wrong with Rook. It's impossible to go wrong with Rook. The only thing is other than that, he brings basically nothing to the team, and he cannot roam because of how heavy he is, and he's quite loud. I'm not saying he's bad by any means. I just think his simplicity makes him a C tier operator. No one would ever be mad if you selected Rook as a teammate. He can still like provide help for the team, but overall I think he is a C tier operator at best. Also guys, I forgot to mention, considering Rainbow Six Siege is a one-shot headshot game, Rook's health isn't always vital. I'm not saying it can't help, but in a game like Siege, it's not as strong as a game like Call of Duty. So yeah, I do think he is ultimately C tier. Next up guys, we have Sentry. Guys, Sentry is ultimately Striker, but just way worse. Look at these guns. Like, he has the Commando 9 and arguably one of the worst shotguns in the game. He has another shotgun, like they give him 2 shotguns, sure. He does, however, have the C4 and impact grenades, which is probably his best aspect. However, overall, he's very, very mid, which is why he's in the C tier. Next up, guys, we have Osa. Now, I'm not going to lie, guys. There was a time in which I really liked playing Osa. She is a 3 health, 1 speed. I used to really like playing her. However, I realized that, honestly, she can just be countered extremely easily. I feel like whenever I played Osa, it never even gave me an advantage, because I'd usually just get shot in the feet or just flanked, like, instantly. Now, she does have grenades, which is overall pretty decent, even though grenades did get nerfed. And her guns are alright, in my opinion. I don't personally like the PDW9, nor do I really like this gun too much. Her ability is very weak, in my opinion. Now, you can do an upside down rappel. I don't know if it still matters, to be honest, but I do remember people used to do it a lot back in the day. And yeah, overall, I think her ability can just get punched, it can get blown up, and it can also allow defenders to really know what you're going for, because you can just see through the fucking shield. But yeah, overall, I think Osa is a CT operator. Next up, guys, we have Cav and Ella. Now, guys, starting off with Cav, is I definitely think if the enemies aren't running a Deimos or a Jackal, then Cav can be buffed up. However, Deimos absolutely counters the shit out of Cav. If they're running a Deimos and you're Cav, just run away. Honestly, just go back to site and then run back up when you can, because you're about to get fucking absolutely destroyed. Her guns are pretty weak in my opinion. I fucking hate this shotgun. Nor do I really like the M12. It's a pretty slow fire rate gun. She does have impact grenades. However, because she's quite a roamer, she doesn't usually set up site that much anyway. Now, her strongest stance is definitely her silent step, which is honestly the only thing about Cav that makes her even a C tier in the first place. Her silent step is very strong and is very hard to hear. She can be a very good roamer if there's no Deimos or Jackal. And yeah, basically those are the conditions to make Cav a good operator. If those are met, then she's good. If they're not, she's absolutely terrible. And it basically provides nothing for the team most of the time. Not to mention that most attackers do not solo push, so you wouldn't be getting interrogations all the time anyway. So you do have to be careful for that. But yeah, overall guys, I think Cav is a CT operator. Next up in CT, we have Finka. Alright guys, Finka is a 2 speed, 2 health, and she does have the light machine gun. Also the spear as well, which I personally think has too much recoil to use. I don't personally like this gun on attack at all, and I personally prefer to use the light machine gun, the 6P41, and she does have flashes and nades, which can be very, very strong. My biggest weakness with Finka is probably her lack of versatility again. She can be good, I'm not saying she's bad, however, I personally don't like her guns, nor can her ability really be used for anything else other than picking up your teammates. But yeah guys, overall can be played well, but I just think her guns lack way too much to be anything above C or B tier. So yeah, I think overall she's a C tier attacker. Alright guys, next up we have Zofia. Bro, I so miss the days when Zofia's fucking M762 was one of the best guns in the game. But now with the recoil it has, it definitely isn't. Zofia's not bad. I wouldn't classify her as bad, but the thing she lacks the most is probably her guns. And not to mention that her concussors are very strong. Her double barrels are still like pretty decent as well in my opinion. But I don't know, again, when it comes down to these lower tiers, in my opinion, it's really the guns that are lacking. Especially on PC. I think if I were to go back to console, Zofia would be a bit higher because this LMG is a lot easier to use. However, on PC, I do think she is a C tier operator. Now guys, I think the last operator that will be in C tier here will actually be Nock. Alright guys, one thing I will say about Nock is the FMG9 is not a bad gun by any means. It is pretty decent overall. Now, Nock's ability can be strong in certain situations. However, in general, again, really lacks versatility. Not to mention that just because she can't be seen doesn't mean she can't be heard. Now, the only situation I could see her even being remotely strong is maybe if you're hard pushing bank or you're hard pushing a site and the defenders are just clueless. Because at the end of the day, like, even if Nock gets one pick, she will usually just get picked off immediately afterwards. I'm not saying she's bad, but I just think she lacks way too much stance with her ability. And yeah, not to mention she can still be seen on cameras. It's just very vague compared to obviously other operators. But yeah, as you can see, she is a 3 difficulty for a reason, and that is why I think she will be C tier. Alright guys, moving on to the final 2 tiers. If you're still watching up to this point of the video, I just want to say thank you, because this shit's actually taking long for me too, but I do appreciate it. And I hope you guys do like this fucking list. I think like this S and A are perfect in my opinion. I'm not too sure about the B and C, but they're still pretty solid. And yeah guys, moving on to D tier. The first D tier operator is going to be Oryx. Guys, in terms of just weapons alone, Oryx is actually very decent. He does have the T5 with the hollow, and he has the bailiff, which can be used to break hatches, which is hence why his ability is what it is. Now, the biggest problem with Oryx is, what else does he do? He makes rotates, and he pushes people over. Other than that, guys, he has absolutely nothing about him that's good. He's very loud. He is quite fast, which is good for someone like Oryx. However, in general, I just, again, think he lacks way too much for the team. Unless you're Bolo and you're just fucking insane aim, killing everyone, his abilities are basically useless to your team. So yeah, I do think he is definitely a D tier operator, especially considering Siege is an extremely ability heavy game and gadget heavy game. He just doesn't show up for it. D tier operator, in my opinion, is going to be Pulse. Alright guys, the thing about Pulse is, again miss those days back in the day where Pulse was just extremely strong. However, nowadays there's just way too many ways to get intel, and I just think Pulse is one of the slowest and weakest ways to get it. You have operators like Valkyrie, you have operators like Cav, you have operators like Legion, you have operators like Fenrir, Melusi, and these operators just absolutely shit on Pulse. And not to mention, he does have the UMP without an ACOG, so it makes it a bit weaker. The only good thing about him is he does have C4, so you can play a nice vertical, but nowadays most of the time you won't even get a pick off it. Everyone's moving around too much. So yeah, I do think Pulse is definitely a D tier operator. Moving along the D tier, next up I think we have Alibi. Now I know a lot of PC merchants love Alibi's gun and just fucking spray with it and fry. The only problem with Alibi again is her abilities. Guys, when 2025, who's really shooting these? Like, yeah, you might accidentally shoot them, but in general, there's nothing else to it. Like, I just think Alibi is extremely weak. You get pinged for a couple seconds, and then what? Nothing happens. I'm not saying she's the worst of the worst, but she's definitely up there, in my opinion, for the worst. Brings basically nothing to the team. Her gun itself isn't actually that strong. I know it has an insane fire rate, however, it does barely any damage, and she only has the hollow. So yeah, guys, overall, I think she is a DT operator. Guys, next up in DT, we have Frost. Alright guys, some of you might hate me for this, because you guys might think Frost is not too bad. However, experiencing her nerf where they can just pick themselves back up, unless you're pretty quick with it and they're playing by themselves, you're basically never really going to get the kill, honestly. I'm not, like, some people could argue against that and say that Frost is good. However, most of the time, you can just join the Frost mats anyway and shoot them. And once you shoot them, she has nothing else to show for it. So yeah, her gun's quite weak as well. She has the 9mm C1. Very slow fire rate, which is in my opinion a very bad thing in Siege. Not to mention she has the Super 90, which is one of the worst guns in the game. And then she has another shotgun for her secondary. And yeah, overall, I think Frost is a D tier defender at best. Alright guys, because this is the end of the tier list, I'm just going to pre-place all the ones where I think they belong. Because basically everyone here is going to be D tier in my opinion. Capitao is going to be D tier. Maestro is going to be D tier. Solus is going to be D tier. Clash is going to be D tier. And Thorns is going to be D tier. Now, the rest, Lion, Gridlock, and Sense will be F tier. Now you might be wondering, why did I leave Rauora till last? And this is why I left Rauora till last. Now guys, the thing about Rauora is it's very hard for me to rate her considering the fact that I've never played her. I've never seen her being played in real life. The only thing I've seen is videos and clips. Now one thing I will say is, one thing that Rauora can be very strong for is taking map control. Not to mention that with the new thermite trick where she can get walls from behind the Rauora wall, such as hatches in bank and stuff like that, she can be used very strongly. My biggest weakness with Rauora is first of all her weapons. Her weapons lack a lot, as you can see. These two weapons right here, guys, are not strong at all. And her new pistol does make the game a bit more interesting. I did not expect Rainbow to release a new weapon this soon. Well, I say this soon, but it's been years. But like, you get what I mean. Like, an automatic pistol, really? I will explain her gadget right now. So, she basically shoots, let's say you could call it a pellet, I don't really know what you call it, a barricade, whatever. And it goes onto doors and it basically barricades a door fully, in which if the attackers were to shoot it, it would open basically in 1 second. And if the defenders were to shoot it, it'd take 3 seconds to open, which allows attackers to gain more map control faster. Now, my biggest problem with Rauora's ability is it can be countered by anything. It can be shot, in which 3 seconds isn't really too long of a time in the first place. Not to mention that it can be destroyed by basically any gadget, including any types of charges, tuber rows even, making him even stronger. Basically any form of explosive will destroy it instantly. Not to mention that it can be shot very easily as well. It's nothing hard to do, you can just shoot it. Now one thing I will say is I am kind of happy with the way they introduced Rauora. I feel like they did introduce her a lot better than a few other operators that have been released. So that is one thing I'll big up Rainbow for, or Ubisoft. However, coming on to my final judgment on where I'd place her as an operator, honestly, it's very hard to say, but I do think for now she will be bottom of A tier, maybe even top of B tier. A lot of people are saying she's OP. I don't see it, guys. I don't think she's OP. I mean, we'll have to wait and see until I play her. Also, guys, you might be wondering, am I going to explain why these guys are F and D tier? I'm going to go into a quick talk here on why I think these three are F tier. And first of all, starting off with Gridlock. I think Gridlock just does not know how to be played. Like, I swear, like in rank especially, she gets picked, doesn't really know how to be played. She can be very good in very certain situations, such as chucking him on flanks, chucking her abilities on flanks to stop flankers. And other than that, I don't see her being played properly. I don't see her being played post-plan or anything like that. She usually just dies, and her scan is also very large, making her easy to kill. Her guns are not very strong at all. And yeah, guys, I think Gridlock is F tier, honestly, at best. I don't think I will ever move her up. Maybe you could argue if this was Pro League, she's fucking S tier. However, this isn't. This is ranked, and most people in ranked do not know how to play her. Now, guys, with Sense, it's basically the same thing in my opinion. However, I don't really see how Sense gauges an advantage for attackers most of the time. Now, I've seen pros play Sense and they play him amazing. They make him look amazing. However, knowing how his guns are, and honestly, his ability in itself usually really never helps the attackers. What most people do in ranked is they throw his ability and they use it as a way to enter. But the thing they don't understand is the defenders are the ones who are holding angles. So if you run into an angle, you're just going to get shot and killed. So unless you're covering up those angles with the sensors, you're basically doing nothing. And I do think in ranked, basically no one plays him because he's just not a good pick overall. And lastly, we have Lion, which in my opinion is one of the most overrated operators in Rainbow Six Siege. Like, you get line scanned, you stand still for what, 3 seconds. What happens? You move on. Like, it can be very good in very, very specific situations. However, I'm not really going to judge it based off that. If that's the case, it's probably not a strong ability in the first place. And yeah, that is why I do think summed up line is an F tier. Not to mention his guns are not very strong in my opinion. But guys, that is going to be all for this long ass tier list. I hope you guys did enjoy today's video. I will say I know for a fact I didn't go through the maps for every single operator. Guys, it will take so long for me to talk about every specific situation in which these operators can be used in certain maps. And I just want you guys to have a vague understanding of which operators can be used in certain maps and in certain ways. Now, I'm going to look back on my list right now and see if I change anything. So give me 5 seconds, guys. Alright guys, looking back on my list, I don't think there's much I would change other than Rook. I think I put Rook bottom of B tier. Just because the aspect of you can never go wrong with him does definitely apply. Unless you're running outside and giving Rook armor to the attackers, you can't really go wrong with him. So I will put him B tier here. Now guys, I genuinely hope you guys enjoyed this list. And if you guys want to see more R6 content in the future, please stick around. And yeah guys, thanks for watching and I'll see y'all next time.